Alrighty. So, this day's been a day. Nowhere near enough sleep. And did a shift at work and did another shift at work because the person who was supposed to come on after me just didn't show up. I said to my boss, you should just fire them. If they're not going to show up for their shifts, and this is not the first time they've done it. They do it all the time. This week alone, they've called out more shifts than they've worked. And it's a repeating pattern. And anyway, that aside, as much as it's annoying to have to suddenly pull double my shifts almost all the dang time, and it means I don't get to do the things that I want to or need to be doing here, I am looking to see if I can figure out what the right setup for doing some of these tabletop gameplay throughs would be. Now, with something like Dragon Strike, which is probably going to be the first one that I end up doing, that's going to be very miniature and board game focused. So I got to figure out how to set up a table in here that would be the right size that I could. It's going to be tight. But if I can set one up in here and have this computer off to the side, this screen in a place I can see it, the camera possibly on a overhead mount so that it looks down. The laptop I'm doing this on, this webcam is plugged into the laptop, and the laptop also has a webcam on it that's much worse than this camera. And it's also completely broken, so it's pointing directly towards the sky at the point. But I'm thinking I might be able to pull it out and set that up as a person-to-person shot, so it looks at my face. This camera, the more detailed camera, could be pointed at the board and use that as sort of a camera 1, camera 2 setup. So what I'd like to have go on is me up top, the board down here, and maybe a bar off to the side with some data. Now, I can probably do that for some recorded play sessions. That's more likely to be single player games like that. When I get more into doing a type of game that would potentially involve me getting feedback from the audience. It's probably the wrong finger for that. Sorry. My attention span's gone, apparently. All right. Yep. My attention span's completely gone tonight. So what I'd like to try to do is for Dragon Strike and potentially Dragon Quest and maybe even Hero Quest, do sort of 1 or 2 of those games with a sort of pre-recorded, which I should be able to do with the OBS software on either of the laptops. And that way I should be able to set up a camera 1, camera 2 arrangement and record it without worrying about whether or not I'm going to lose the signal, which oftentimes happens when I try to do too much using one machine. Like this laptop is barely able to handle doing live streaming on some days. Some days it drops signal, and we've seen that happen. Now, doing camera 1, camera 2 at the same time and switching any part of that at any time, I don't know that my setup could handle it. But that's if we're live streaming. You can record video using OBS. And that recording, because you're not trying to stream it at the same time on the internet, may be much easier to handle. And then on top of it, there's the possibility of literally just using this laptop for the camera down look and the other laptop for the face look, and record 2 of them and run them together in my editing software. Now, the only hurdle to that is it doesn't allow for me to have live chat on the side over here, unless I upload it as a Premiere video, which I think is still possible. If I do a Premiere video, I can actually have live chat over here, but the video is a pre-recorded video and edited and then posted. So it's a Premiere. It's edited content with a live chat to the side. And I think that's a viable option as well, until I can get a better sense of what I can manage to do live streaming with OBS. Now, it looked like a little while back that HitFilm, which is my primary editor software, it looked like for a while HitFilm was trying to see if there was a way they could incorporate a live streaming aspect to their editor. I'm not sure if that's true or not. It was just an impression I got from something they were doing a while ago. I haven't really played with it much in the time since then. So I'm kind of curious to see if they've done anything like that and look into it. But for right now, I think the plan is to do a pre-recorded single player mode. I want to try to do it in OBS and record it and maybe do some editing to it, but I doubt I'll do much editing. I'm not looking to do a big project that requires a couple of hours of editing. It's hard enough for me to try to organize the time to do these, try to get back to editing and posting the Roving Jack stuff, and see a few other projects that I'm working on come to fruition. So yeah, when they do nights like tonight, where the person that's supposed to take over for me never shows, I don't have I literally got back here at 10:30, and I made myself something to eat, and I ate, and now I'm here. I don't have the time to do a 2 to 3 hour shoot and then spend 5 to 8 hours editing it. I don't have the time or the interest in doing that. I would very much like to do just a playthrough of some of these games and upload them as is. They're long form videos. I know, for some people, investing 1 to 3 hours to sit through a video is not always going to make it a viable option. But at the same time, longer form videos of playthroughs seem to work for other types of genres and games. So I think that'd be worth exploring, at least just to try it out and figure out whether or not I think it'll work. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to set up. I mean, there are a lot of cameras that I kind of have access to, and they're all kind of have access to. I have This camera we're shooting on is on a monitor that has a built-in webcam underneath of it that I don't have turned on. And the laptop it's plugged into as an external monitor also has a webcam, which is sort of, the screen is broken off that laptop and it's just laying flat. That camera's pointing directly up. So right there we have 3 cameras. And I have my other laptop, which has another webcam on it. And so those are 4 cameras that theoretically I could all bring to bear in some form or another for making videos. Now I have my 2 recording cameras that I can record video on and chunk those in editing. So there are 3 here that are connected to each other. I could switch from camera 1 to camera 2 and possibly camera 3 on this one. So if I set up this webcam on a tripod, use the webcam on this monitor, and use the webcam on the screen over there on some kind of mount, I should be able to have 3 cameras that I can switch between. And then with OBS, there's the option of doing screencast from the computer. And I have the option of recording all of those options. So we have camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, and desktop. And then I have the option of, if I record that as a single OBS file, to use my laptop and the other camera over there at the same time, and potentially 2 or even 3 other cameras as recordings, run them through the editor, and do a recorded video with as many as 6 to 8 cameras. So I have access to the ability to do that. It's a lot more work. I prefer to do what's called in-camera editing, and that means that I build my videos around the idea that I won't edit afterwards. It's if I want to switch from camera 1 to camera 2, I don't have 2, like if I do a 1-hour video and I have 2 cameras running, I have 2 hours of footage that I pick back and forth between. OBS just gives me the option of having camera 1, camera 2, and I just click a button and it turns one view off and turns one view on. And I would rather do that. It makes it much easier to shoot. It takes a lot less time to get the product made. And I think that's much more where I'm going to probably go for most of this. Now, theoretically, I could do all that live. So I think last year we were doing a little bit of test runs of some of those, and we kept having the internet connection cop out on me. And but theoretically, I should be able to have OBS running and have the ability to have bars of data pop up at the bottom or a side menu of information show up. And those are very possible options to do live if you have a connection and or a computer that will tolerate that workload. I do not know that my system can handle that. And we never really got a good answer as to why my system fights when I try to do that. Is it the connection to the internet, the Wi-Fi? Is it the Wi-Fi from the computer to the router? Is it the router to the internet? Or is it the laptop not handling the workload? Is it the camera not handling the workload for the laptop? Is it the addition of audio channels? We don't know. Like I I know it's more likely to happen if I've disconnected my camera and my microphone in the last couple of days and plugged them back in. It gets tricky about it. So I feel like it's possibly the computer or uh, like the camera relearning how to adapt to what I'm doing. So it may be any number of those things. And I don't need to necessarily figure that out right now. If I want to end up doing any video at the makerspace, if I get a group of people together to do some gameplay stuff and record it there, recording will probably work. Live streaming will probably be problematic for the rest of the week. Realistically, I have to plan to do this as best I can. And so if I'm going to shoot these playthroughs of games, I'm probably going to do them for now, at least starting as a pre-recorded. So they will feel like live videos because, I plan to do it all live to the camera. I don't want to pull it down and do any editing later. And if I'm going to do that, I'll probably record it in OBS and use some of those features while recording to switch cameras and to switch information sections on any part of the screen. With that said, yeah, it's like I have no idea what it is that causes it, because it's like running a recording of OBS only uses the camera and the hard drive. When running the live streaming, like we've got here, when we run live streams, it also uses the Wi-Fi modem, which I get the distinct feeling puts an additional load on the motherboard. And if you're streaming large files like the 1080p that I'm doing right now, streaming that is much harder than trying to stream the what was it, 780? 720p that I used to do. And even smaller than that would be something like a 480, I think, is the standard def, and it's not high def. And some of my video will probably be that. I think like the webcam on my laptops is not a 1080p. I don't think it's even a 720. But if I'm going to do a big screen of a tabletop on which I'm playing a game, I can do an inset window with me at a much lower resolution. It doesn't have to be a 1080p. If the main window is 1080p and I'm a subset of that window, I can probably get away with a 420, 480. I always forget the numbers on those. It's a little bit of the dyslexia kicking in. So I should be able to do a recorded video and do in-camera editing while I'm doing it. And it'll be good practice for me to try to do some of that for some other projects that I want to do. Some of my artwork stuff, being able to talk to the camera and the audience and then show my artwork, being able to switch between those two frames, it's kind of important. So I want to kind of try to figure that out and get that worked out. And I think the hard part right now, I think, is going to be figuring out how to build a setup that I can do this on. Something that I can do overhead video and face-on video together. Now, this position I'm in right now, there's no way I can make that work for both of those. Like the room I'm in right now, there's really not a lot of empty space left. And so the surface I have this on is a TV tray. It's a TV dinner stand. This is the door out of my room. Yeah, 72480. Yeah. So this is the door out of my room. This chair that I've got here slides over out of the way so I can open this door, but it only slides so far because right here is the dresser. And right there, well, this is sort of like a bureau. Right there on the other side of this is about a gap of 3 feet before you hit a bureau where I've got some of my gaming stuff in it. Right there's the bed, and there's space between the dresser and the bed for me to move. And then there's a gap on the other side of the bed of about 1.5 feet before you hit a wall. That's literally like in this room. Oh, there's a closet right there, and I'm using the closet light to light my video right now. If I do the room light, that's the room light, which is probably all right. I could probably do that. That's not a huge deal. I think it's a little too glaring right here and here. This is a little bit easier for everything to handle. Maybe I could do more like this. I could do this more often. I don't know if it'll hurt. I do know that when I try to upload video during the day, there's a window right there. And that window lets in enough light that it weirds out the camera sometimes. So I've tried to do some live video. I'm not sure it's weirding the camera out enough to cause the disconnects that I get. It might be the internet connection gets worse during the day. I have no idea which of those is the case. And I really think the only way we're going to find that out is changing one of those variables. Changing to shooting during the daytime in a recorded setting, or I do more light, well-lit stuff during the day at the makerspace to see if it's that's happening, and then try to do some stuff here at night. Again, there's so many variables that I don't think that's going to get us the right answer, because the problems I've had here, like if I take this camera down and I take this microphone down to the makerspace, we don't know that when I bring it back here and we have problems the next day, that it's the internet, the lighting, or if it's just they've been disconnected, like oftentimes happens, and then they give me trouble the next day. We don't know what causes it, but it does seem to be something in the system, somewhere in the connections of everything put together, that it struggles to adapt for a few days after being disconnected. And it only seems to be a factor for the live streaming. As near as I've been able to tell, and maybe that's something I can try as an experiment, is see if recording a video has those same problems if I've disconnected, and see if recording a video has any difficulties with light or the time of day I record. See if any of those things play into the factor. I don't imagine the time of day will be a factor if it's a recorded video, because the time of day won't matter to the factors of camera, microphone, and internet access, because the camera works, the microphone works. It's always the connection aspect that fails. And maybe it's just trying to maintain that connection while running the camera, the microphone, and the laptop all at once. We shall see. I'm going to see if I can figure out, I've got a gaming night tomorrow somewhere else. I'm not doing any recording of that. But I may try to figure out a way to move some of the things in here around so that I can set up, of all things, I don't need another large table in here, but I think I'm probably going to have to do that in order to do what I want to do. So set up a table in here, pull this one down, and just swap it out for a larger table. And use that table, set up the monitor. I may have to do my monitor off to the side and my laptop off to, well, because they're all sort of strung together. Well, that cable might be long enough. The webcam can be set up. Yeah, the limiting factor is the HDMI cable I use for the laptop to this screen. And it might also be a factor. Well, I can probably find a nice USB cable long enough that I can connect the webcam on this monitor to the laptop as well. But right now, I think I only need a top-down look, which I can use the webcam here to look down. And I think either using the webcam on this screen here or on my laptop, I could probably set it up to get face-on view. So that would necessitate setting up the laptop more or less right across from me. This screen seeing what's going on to my left, and the webcam on some kind of setup looking down. I think I can make that happen. The real trick is figuring out what kind of setup I need to make the camera point down. Now I can angle that camera in such a way that it points down, but I still have to mount it above in some way. I may just see if I can figure out how to clamp on a couple of dowels to the table that I set up, and then a cross beam or something that I can mount the camera to on a slider or something and position it right. I had a setup that I was working on at the last place I lived that would have worked fine. I don't have the ability to do that anymore. I had a nice little corner of a room that I could set up a workable surface and mount a kitchen towel or like a bathroom towel bar and use certain clamps to slide it around on that over the surface. I don't really have the ability to mount a bathroom towel bar to any of the surfaces in this space. I'm wondering if I do some organizing over here, I might be able to push this dresser down. But if I do that and set the table up in this corner using this wall behind me as one of the back surfaces, it limits what I can do because I have to be able to break it down. This is the only exit to the room. I can't block this exit with a table with a setup like this on it. Yeah, that's the door. I can move this TV dinner tray back, and I can move this chair out of the way, but I don't think I could set up a whole table in this direction. It's not wide enough for this direction to be a table. Well, maybe it is. I'll have to do some measuring and figure it out. But I think, yeah, I need an overhead shot. I need a face cam, and I ideally would love to be able to keep this positioning, because with some, like, I'd want to maybe move the aim a little bit so it's not always catching this thing. It's not mine. It's part of the home decor that I have no control over. But I should be able to put up some green poster board or green cloth and use a green screen ability in here. I do think I might be able to make that happen. I need to figure out what the dimensions of this space are. And if that's going to work, it's certainly going to put a restriction on the space I have left in the room and make it harder to get access to certain things. But if I can make it work, it might just be worth it. I'll try to figure that out by tomorrow. Until then, I don't know that I'll be able to get on here too much tomorrow. I have a game night going on. And after that, I got to try to do a couple things. And then Monday is another work day. No guarantee that they won't have another person call out, or have the person who's supposed to come in after me just not show. It happens at least once a week now. And I'm like, you really just fire them. Just fire them. Like, I hate to say that to a person, but if I'm getting twice as many hours because I'm working your shifts, you should not be working there. You are just not an employee there anymore. This isn't a Craigslist, odd jobs listing. This is, you were hired to take a shift. And it's frustrating to me to try to do the projects that I want to do right now, because half the time I can't, because I'm, the job that I'm there to do won't get done by anybody other than me. And so I got to show up. And when I show up, I got to plan to stay longer than I'm supposed to stay. Surprise extra shifts happen too often. And so it's part of the reason why I'm a little frustrated, because I want to be working on my projects. I want to be working on Roving Jack. I want to be working on these things. I want to work on launching some stuff over on Opportunity Forge, and maybe do something for Steaming Mad. And I was hoping that by the end of the year, I'd also get the chance to maybe start kicking off Cooking with Kuno. Who knows? At this point, it feels like I'll be lucky by June to be able to have Roving Jack and this channel working. Part of me wants to just quit the job. It's not worth the aggravation to a certain degree. But I don't think I'm in a position where I can do that yet. And it's frustrating because the things I need to do to get into a position to do that, I can't do because I can't get the time to myself to do them. Like, I'd love to be able to say I've got my book listed up on Amazon for download. I'd love to be able to say you can purchase any one of the 5 games I made last year for tabletop gaming. I can't get those up yet because I can't finish the artwork for them yet. I'd love to be able to say that I'm ready for beta testing the computer games that I was working on. Can't do that yet because I really haven't had the time to really crunch them through on some software. I've got the scripting done and some of the ideas for the artwork done, but I just don't have them in the programming yet. And so, I feel like some of those would be great opportunities for maybe part-time work so that I don't have to do as much of what I'm doing right now. But it is what it is. It's the common gripe of the working man. But for now, I think I'm going to call it right here for tonight. I need to get a little bit of sleep so I can be ready to do what I need to do tomorrow. So thank you for joining me. I don't know what we'll be talking about tomorrow. Probably me just kind of rambling a little bit more, but I may see if I can get some things to fit and try out a couple setups for camera angle stuff. I might even try OBS live streaming from those setups. I don't know. We'll see. I don't imagine I'll get that all done by tomorrow. I'd like to think that by the end of the week I could demo some of it, but we shall see. Until then, take care and have a good night. Maybe I won't stay up all night playing around with projects and actually get some sleep tonight. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that your heart scan came back better than you were anticipating. It sounded like you were anxious that it was going to go bad. I, I've got some other friends with some health concerns, and it's just sort of like every test is sort of like waiting on pins and needles, and it's stressful. This can't be good for you to be that stressed. So I'm glad that you got some good news about it. Alrighty. May we both have good news in the next few days going forward. All right. Take care. Good night. Sleep is